What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another episode of Greyman Operations. We are finally going to have that recoil spring discussion. I have been testing Canik's recoil springs for a long time, and the reason it's taken so long is because my results were not what I expected. Excuse me. Now, I have all of Canik's recoil springs. The one in my SFX right now is the standard recoil spring. I also have the heavy recoil spring, and you can tell which one is which because the heavy has a red end cap, the standard has a silver sort of end cap, and the lightened one has a blue one. And guys, like, man, we're talking comfortably, I can say, thousands of rounds, and the results are going to be quite interesting. Before we get into that, I've got to do some admin. In this video, to my patrons, I'm going to give away the second of my Gear plate carriers. I gave away one last week, I'm giving away one this week. At the end of June, we are giving away a Canik Meta SF or a Canik MC9. The patron who wins it is going to get to choose which one they want. They're also going to get a Mechanic Red Dot for whichever one they want, as well as a Stealth Kydex holster. Now, that's only for my active paid patrons. If you want to become a patron, the link to do so is the first link in the video description below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook or Instagram, it's the first comment. Let's get to it. Guys, I'm going to roll in 30 shots, okay? It's going to be 3 10-shot segments. I'm going to roll them at full speed, and then I'm going to roll them at a significantly reduced speed. See if you can for yourself decide which 10 of the 30 are being run with the lightened recoil spring, the standard recoil spring, and the heavy recoil spring. Okay, now before I tell you which is which, let's talk about recoil for a second. The laws of physics dictate that if something goes this way at a few thousand feet per second, something wants to go that way at a few thousand feet per second. For every action in the universe, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So as the round flies out of here, your slide reciprocates backwards, and it wants to do that at the same speed almost at which the round is fired out the other end. We've got to take into consideration the difference in weight between a bullet and a slide, but it wants to go back pretty fast. Now, in order for that to be controlled and have this thing not literally just fly off the back of your gun, there is something called a recoil spring, which sits right here on the slide. I would love to show you, but YouTube would have a shit fit if I took this gun apart on the channel. So this sits like that, and as the slide reciprocates backwards, naturally the spring is going to compress. Now, the purpose of that compression is, one, it's to slow the slide down so that that reciprocation isn't so aggressive that it A, rips his gun out of your hand, and B, rips his gun apart. Okay, so it provides a dampening effect. And then on the other hand, it's to hold this ejection port open enough for your magazine to chamber another round, as well as obviously eject the previous spent shell casing, and then slam it forward to chamber that round so you can fire it. Now, why would you want to lighten or stiffen your recoil spring? Well, on Canik, they basically do two things. If you lighten your recoil spring, your slide is going to fly backwards much faster, hold the ejection port open for longer. When I say longer, I'm talking milliseconds, right? But slam that sucker forward in a more controlled manner, and that technically helps you mitigate recoil. Now, why would you want to mitigate recoil? When a gun cycles, this happens, okay? Because, as we spoke about earlier, the laws of physics dictate that energy doesn't disappear. It can only be transferred. So the energy of everything that's going on in this firearm gets transferred to your body, and it generally will travel through the path of least resistance. Now, the path of least resistance is often your wrist joint, and this happens, okay? So you want to mitigate this, and the reason for that is because twofold. One, you want to look really cool on Instagram, and two, the sooner you can get your front sight back down on target, the sooner you can fire your second shot. So if your slide reciprocates like this, that by the time that slide comes forward, you're ready to go. Okay, but mostly it will reciprocate something like this and then drop forward something. So you've got to kind of wait for it. What you don't want, and generally people don't mind this. That's fine. What you don't want is this. Okay, that oscillations. That is what's really going to slow you down. Now guys, let's go back to those 10 rounds I fired in the beginning where I asked you to guess which is the different recoil spring. The first 10 was the heavy recoil spring, the second 10 was the standard recoil spring, and the last 10 was the lightened recoil spring. Now what I'm about to tell you is incredibly counterintuitive, and it seems to be unique to me. And I'm going to try to explain why I think it's happening in this video. But I perform best with the heavy recoil spring. My follow-up shots are quicker and more accurate when running the heavy recoil spring.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Excellent.
Second best is the standard, and worst is the lightened recoil spring. Guys, I can't tell you enough how odd that is. So much so that this video took months to produce when it should have taken weeks. Because I imagined that the lightened would be the best and the heaviest would be the worst. It is not the case. Let me give you a perfect example. When I go and train, I generally do like a 50-round course of fire. And let me show you that 50-round course of fire quickly with the lightened recoil spring. So I'm going to hold my hand over it, but I want you to look at the spread, right? I've used a blue marker to outline the spread of the shots. I'm just keeping my hand just so my camera focuses on my hand. And there's a couple of flyers here. There always is. I try to push the limits, so there's always going to be a few flyers. But look at the difference in the spread of the shots when I'm using the lightened recoil spring. Now, when I do the same thing around this particular day, I didn't have this, I forgot my targets at home. So what I did was I drew a little circle, but it'll all make sense. This is the same thing with the heavy recoil spring. I made dots on a piece of paper behind where each shot landed, and this is what you're looking at. Look at the difference in the spread between the lightened and the heavier. And that's generally a 50-round course of fire, doing things like multiple shots, drawing from the holster, firing multiple shots, one reload ones, that sort of thing, firing 10 shots as quickly as I can, that kind of deal. My accuracy with the heavy recoil spring is always better than it is with a lightened recoil spring. For example, here is 10 shots I fired with each of them. This is the spread of that 10 shots with the lightened recoil spring, and this is the spread of that 10 shots with the heavy recoil spring. As you can see, there is a significant difference, in spread. So I thought, well, let's try firing 5 shots. This is the 5 shots with the lightened recoil spring, and this is the 5 shots with the heavy recoil spring. And as you can see, once again, the spread is quite different. Now, why is this happening? I think it's got to do with your body's natural tension and rhythm. What I found, and today I studied this like in depth, I focused on it, okay, is when I'm running the lightened recoil spring, I'm often ready to pull the trigger quicker than what my dot gets back into the target zone. Now we're talking minute bits of time here. But when I run the heavy recoil spring, I have more perception of my red dot, not focusing on it, but I have more perception of it than I do with a lightened recoil spring. And I think it's because my body's natural rhythm, as the gun comes up and goes back down, I'm already ready to pull the trigger. So for me, what's happening is that heavy recoil spring is slowing down the rearward movement because it's heavy, it's harder to compress, but it's slamming that gun forward. And I can deal with a slightly slower rearward movement, and I can deal with the slamming the gun forward because it's not doing this, okay? It's coming down and settling, maybe one oscillation, and I can fire the next round. But I can tell you, I have fired significantly more rounds with a lightened spring than I have with a heavy spring. And the instant I switched from the lightened to the heavy, immediately my group started tightening up. And it just became way more natural for me to fire multiple rounds quicker. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I was training with Anton from Concealment Training, and I shot the best I had ever shot in my life.
Shooter ready. Stand by. .96 up 6 seconds. Brilliant shooting. We are done.
Life. And I was running the heavy recoil spring. Now guys, a lot of people talk about ammo. I didn't want to get too scientific. I have tested this with my carry ammo, which is my Winchester Ranger 127 plus P. I've tested it with the Noble Tech 124 grain. I've tested it with, what is this? Commando Defense 115. I've also tested it with SNB. 100% truth, when I go to the shooting range and I buy ammunition, I literally ask them, give me the cheapest 9mm ammo you have that day. Okay, my firearm should be able to cycle it. At the end of the day, that's what a lot of you guys are running. Okay, so I'm not going to say, if you want to run this spray, you got to run that ammo. I can tell you that my results have been the same across the board, no matter what ammo I'm running. I think that the slide reciprocation with the heavy recoil spring matches my body's natural tension better than it does with the lightened spring. Again, this is 150% my opinion, and I'm almost certain it's going to change person to person. The nice thing is, guys, these recoil springs are not expensive. They're like $400. They're on Canik's website. It's like the price of a box of ammunition. Guys, let's switch the view, give away a plate carrier, and we can come back. Okay guys, here we are once again. I'm going to copy the names of all of our active paid patrons, and we're going to paste that into a name randomizer, which is going to randomize the order and assign a number to each name. There we go. I'm then going to copy the numbers of each of those names, and there should be like 323, and there is. So we're going to copy that, and we're going to paste it into a random wheel of names. Just wait for it to load. I'm going to scroll down and just remove the extra space it always creates. And there are 323 entries. I'm going to shuffle them again, and then I'm going to click to spin, and the number this lands on that corresponds to the name in our name randomizer is going to win that second Gear plate carrier. And it is number 16. So number 16 on our random wheel of names is going to be Gavin Upton. Well done to you, Gavin. I will reach out to you on Patreon and get you hooked up with that awesome plate carrier. Let's switch the view and we can continue. So well done to that Patreon winner. Remember guys, at the end of June, a Patreon winner is going to get to choose between a Canik Meta SF or a Canik MC9. Guys, remember, the purpose of controlling recoil is not to look cool on Instagram. It's to get your sights back on target quickly so that you can fire off follow-up shots. Guys, that is it. I'll catch you next week for another review. Have a good week. Be safe. Train hard. Cheers. God bless.